Deathpixie disclaimer. This video was originally recorded in September 2024. There is swearing and profanity. Sources are listed in the description. This video is not monetized. Any ads you see provide revenue to the hosting site, not the creators. If you made it this far, geez, you have a lot of patience.
Dance Pixie, dancing on the lip of madness.
Welcome to Shitty PowerPoint Theater. Dignity not included.
All right, next up, Sir Wilfrid Laurier.
Okay, now before you go into any thing on Waffly Willy,
Yes.
please note I will be referring to him as Waffly Willy because I greatly enjoy waffles and it helps me get through Wilfrid Laurier through the good and the bad.
All right. So he was Canada's first francophone prime minister, so that is a big deal. You're seeing a uniting of those two sides happening. Liberal Party. He was in office for a very long time, as you can see.
Yes, he was.
And that was all consecutively, no breaks. You're gonna say nothing about that?
No.
Do you know what it was?
It was a scale that would teeter and
On
totter.
a skateboard.
Yep.
Because balance. Because he's a compromiser.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything about Waffly Willy.
Interesting point is the fact that he and his wife Zoe didn't have children. So interesting for the time. All right, this pro cons list. I know the font is small.
It's kind of huge.
It's huge. The
It's
font is small, but
this is one of the things I was privy to before this. It's kind of huge.
Yeah. So
yeah, look at how large the font is.
Yeah. So anyway, I do want to make a note that in 1900, the only people who had the right to vote in a provincial, only the people who had a right to vote in a provincial election could have voted in a federal election. And although Black Canadian men could vote and participate in local government if they met certain income and property ownership and they were over the age requirement, which was 21, all women and many people who belong to visible minorities, including Aboriginal persons, well, most Aboriginal persons, could not vote. So just to set the stage for voting at the time. So as of 1900, that's what was going on with voting. All right, now, he did speak out against the execution of the Métis activist Lois Riel, first French-Canadian Prime Minister. He was known as the great conciliator or the great compromiser for his ability to satisfy both English and French Canada. He resolved the Manitoba school question. He did a volunteer force to the Second Boer War, so anybody who wanted to could go. It was a volunteer basis. Created the Canadian Navy, which, as you know, became very important to protecting our marinas and fisheries later on. A system was introduced whereby annuities may be purchased from the government, the aim of which was to encourage a voluntary provision for old age. So we're seeing the start of a pension program. Increased immigration. Alberta and Saskatchewan were created and thus joined Confederation. Constructed the Grand Trunk Pacific and National Transcontinental Railways. There was an effort into establishing Canada as an autonomous country within the British Empire. There are a lot of sub-policies around this that I don't want to get into. The Industrial Disputes Investigation Act established the Department of External Affairs, and there was the Laurier-Greenway Compromise. Trade reciprocity with the states is always divisive. Just because of who comes out where. His cons, he limited immigration from China and India and actually supported an increase of the Chinese head tax. There was a limit to Japanese immigration. He drafted but thankfully canceled, an order to keep Black Americans escaping segregation out of Canada. So he proved the order in council, but it was canceled before ever being used, so that was thankful. And he did in fact suppress a report about how children were dying in residential schools. So there's a lot good that he did do, but there were a couple major type moments, to say the least.
Yeah.
Are you okay if I just move into notes now?
Oh, please. Oh, yeah, please.
So I really like this quote from him. Liberal Catholicism is not political liberalism.
Yeah.
So he stated that the Liberal Party is, quote, a party composed of men holding perverse doctrines. Sorry, is not, quote, a party of composed men holding perverse doctrines with a dangerous tendency and knowingly and deliberately progressing towards revolution. The policy of the Liberal Party is to protect our institutions, to defend them and spread them, and under the sway of those institutions to develop the country's latent resources. That is the policy of the Liberal Party, and it has no other. So again, we're seeing that theme of protection of the country going on. He had 15 uninterrupted years as Prime Minister. He had 45 years of service in the House of Commons, which is crazy. He was such a great compromiser between English and French-speaking Canadians.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And French-speaking Canadians. It's very important to highlight that.
He really was. He really was.
Because, like we said, there was a lot of activation of English and French not being happy with each other. And as we saw, the roots of it are in that Protestant versus Catholic type attitude. So the fact that he was able to create stuff that both sides agreed on was quite an accomplishment. He does have an elephant in the room. As you could tell by some of his immigration policies, was a racist.
Yeah, just a bit.
I'll say, not uncommon for the time, but still, he was a racist. What is interesting are a couple of his quotes. So, one of them is, let them look to the past, but let them still more look to the future. Let them look to the land of their ancestors, but let them look... Excuse me. Let them look also to the land of their children. Let them become Canadians and give their heart, their soul, their energy, and all their power to Canada. So that's a very inclusive quote when you think about it.
Yeah.
His most famous quote, however, is, "The state has no place in the bedrooms of the nation," which basically encapsulates his belief of individual privacy and freedom. And back to the sexy moose. He was actually among one of John Abbott's students. Pretty interesting. He was a member of Parti Rouge. He was vice president of the Institut Canadien de Montreal. He was part of the Liberals of Lower Canada. He was a lawyer. He didn't have much success from a business perspective. He was an editor and ran a newspaper. He was the mayor of Victoriaville. He was at the Legislative Assembly of Quebec, House of Commons, Minister of the Inland Revenue, Leader of the Opposition, then Prime Minister, and then Leader of the Opposition again. You have anything else to say?
Okay. Waffly Willy is one of the longest-serving prime ministers you will ever see, and possibly, I'm not sure on this, the longest-serving prime minister to never be defeated, going for 15 uninterrupted years. I'm not sure if that's it, but it speaks to the notion of compromise that he had, and he's really, I know he's for the Liberal Party, but if you're looking at it in terms of political alignment, he tried to be as centrist as populous as humanly possible within his reign, for better or for worse, regardless of how you feel about Waffly Willy. He also, his namesake also gave birth to noted party university within Ontario, Wilfrid Laurier University, whose economic or academic achievements pale in comparison to the University of Waterloo.
Hey, this is Trapdoor Crabsworth for deathpixie. If you liked our content, please like this video and subscribe. And if you want to see more, just check out our links in the description. Do it. Do it or Miri will kill you.